One of the most exciting aspects of our web page design class is that you are going to be working on creating a website throughout this class. So you have a project that will kind of start just a little bit in Unit 1, and we'll talk more about it in Unit 2. Unit 2 and 3, you'll be doing some planning for your website, and once we get to Unit 4 and beyond, we'll actually be working on building it. But in the first few units, we're going to be learning about it and prepping for it. So today, as a part of Unit 1, I just want to introduce you to what this website project is and have you make a choice, because you have two choices that you can make. Option 1 is that you can choose your own client for this website. So you could build this website on any topic that you want. You could do it for yourself if you wanted to. Let's say do a healthy eating blog or healthy recipes. If you wanted to create a website for your son's new business. If you wanted to build a new website for your church, you're fine with doing all of those things. But do remember that you will need to build this website from scratch. You can't get the login information for an existing website and just kind of revamp, retool what's already there. You'll be building it from scratch. Now, let's say you are building this website from scratch, and let's pretend you're doing it for your church and they have a website, it's just really old and you don't like it. But maybe they have a couple pictures on there that you like, or they have some copy on there, and copy would be the writing, the words that are chosen, and you think they have some good writing, good copy. Now, I don't mind if you copy paste those literal words and bring them into your own website, because this isn't a class in writing copy, but it will be a class in where to place it and how big to make it and what kind of font do you use and what kind of colors do we use. So you're welcome to use that kind of thing, but you will just be building this from scratch. And the other thing to keep in mind is if you choose your own topic, it could be something that you want to go live after this class. If you want to take the website you built and buy a domain or transfer it to a different existing domain, then you are welcome to do that. Or this could be something that you're just going to build for the class to practice. Maybe you just want to build something that's going to look maybe professional, or maybe you want something that will look cool, that will be good for a portfolio, and so you can get some nice screenshots or video captures of your website for the future if you want to apply for a new job and show some work you've done. So all those things are fine. I do have many students, though, who might want to choose this option 2 because you don't have a good idea of what it is that you want to create. You don't have a great client, and you don't have a good ideas about what you would want to build a website for, even if it's something that you would let lay fallow after the class. And also, the other thing with option 1 is that you would have to find all the photos that you would need, things like that. You would have to find all of the assets to use in your own website. So this option 2 is you could create a website using a class client. So a class client will be an organization in which I will give you lots of materials, and you can use as much or as little of the materials as needed based on your own judgment. So what would I provide you if you picked option 2? And just also let me point out that I'm going to show you an example of the types of things that we would provide if you choose a class client. And I'm going to use an example for you. And in this case, I'm going to assume the client would be the Communication Arts Department at Lee University. And you would be building a website that's unique for the Communication Arts Department. So if you chose a class client, you would have access to assets. So assets would be things like photographs, official logos, the allowed fonts, and particular Pantone or RGB color choices. So you would have all those things provided for you. You would have access to specific information. So in the case of the communication arts client, give you a list of all the majors and what classes they are, the kind of careers that you might do in this particular with this particular major, and you would have a general audience to understand who are the types of people who might want to look at your client's website. Now, I'm not going to give you consumer profiles. You would build a consumer profile yourself in a different assignment, but I will give you some general audience information. Also, you will have access to resources, in particular something like a brand guide, and that is when an organization has a document that tells you how they want their brand to be seen. So they'll tell you how you can use a logo, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and give you very specific information. And so I will give you information on the brand guide. So let's talk about assets. So if you chose the client for this class, you would have access to a OneDrive folder. And in this case, for the communication arts, it would be, let me bring this up here. So I have this folder, class client, and if I click on this, you'll see I have photographs here. So let me just click on photographs. Photographs is a type of asset, and there's about 300 photos in here. And they're of students, they're of classrooms, they're particular rooms, something about global perspective trips, but about 300 photos total that are in this folder. And so you would have access to the folders. You would also have a link to all of the prescribed logos. So let me go back to here, and so you would have access to the logos, and it will describe the logos, how the logos work. You could download these directly. Gives you an idea of how you can or can't use the logos so that you would understand how this works. All right, so it's logos. You would also have access to typography. Typography would be the fonts that are approved. And in this case, you would have access to the different typefaces. And so they tell you what the typefaces are, where to use them. You can download them and use them on your own computer. Then you would have access to the color palette. So in this case, we'd have the color palette, and here you see our official colors. We have the Pantone number, CMYK, and CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And this would be if you're going to create something that would be printed, that what you would take to a printer, and it would be a hard copy, you would use CMYK colors. But if you're doing it digitally, you would be using RGB, red, green, blue, and this is what we'll be using mostly, and colors can be put in using these particular numbers, or a hex code is the same thing as the RGB color. And you'll find I'll use a hex code in a lot of my examples, so I'll often just highlight, copy, and then paste this hex code in whatever I'm working on. All right, so there we have our colors. We would have icons. What icons would you use? And so we have a list of the icons that they like to use. They tell you where you can download them. You would actually go to a website, but they show you what are the different icons that they prefer get used on Lee branded sites. And then you would get information. So I was just showing you all sorts of assets there. Second thing is I give you information. So for instance, here we have the communication arts description. This is how we kind of briefly communicate who our whole department is. So you would have that. You would have all of the majors. So here we have all of our majors that are on campus. And these are all hyperlinks. So you would click on one of these, and here we have art and education. And so you would find information about art and education. There'd be some career opportunities, what to expect, different information here. And at the top, if you click on this, it would take you to the degree page, which would tell you what are the exact classes you would be taking in this major. So any of this information could be used if building a website. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you only have to use as much or as little information as you would like to when you have a client. Well, I should probably put a caveat there. Your client may say, I need this, this, and this on it, but then you get to choose how much you put of what. So for instance, in a communication arts page, we would like to have all of our majors mentioned. However, that might be all you do is mention the majors and give a link to the degree audit, or somebody else might decide that they want to give a lot of notice to each major and to detail things out more. You would have that choice. So a lot of choices you can make, and with the assets with the 400 or 300 photos, you get, or however many photos will be with your class client, you can use as whatever you think is appropriate. There's chances are you're not going to use anywhere near that many photos. Maybe you're going to use 20 or 25 photos total. That's fine. You get to choose what you think works best. All right, so that's the information. So I talked about assets and information that we provide you. And then we also provide you with a resource. And in this case, our resource is our brand guide. And I just have a couple screenshots of the brand guide on here, but it will tell you how your organization wants to be seen. So here it's in this class client. I'm going to click on this, the brand guide, and you will see that it tells you things. So what is our brand statement? What's our university's personality? What are the messages that we would like to convey? And here are our general audiences. So here it tells you who generally looks at our stuff. So we have a small town audience, 17 to 18-year-olds living in small town America, looking to attend a smaller school. And you'll notice again, this is not a consumer profile, which we talk about in another tutorial, another lecture, and then you'll be creating your own consumer profile, but you could use this as that starting point of narrowing down who would you like to target. And then the tone. What do we want our tone to be? Because your tone of a website, you could have a fun, irreverent tone. You could have a serious, professional tone. You could have a friendly, confidential tone. And here they want us to be Christ-like, supportive, and focusing on excellence. So this would be all part of the resources that you have. So you get to make that choice. Do you want your own client, or do you want to use the class client? Either one can be a great choice. So last, just to give you a little bit of a view into what you'll be working on over the 7 units, at the very end of the class, you will be turning in a 5-page website that you have designed and built from scratch. You'll be required to have a home page. That will be the page that people usually land on, kind of your beginning or opening page. You'll have an about page in which you talk about the organization, who they are, and you'll have a page of your choice. So this will all depend on your client. So in the example of, let's say you are going to build a website for a friend who has a personal trainer business. And so maybe you'll have one page talking about client testimonials, and a second page of your choice could be maybe this personal trainer sells t-shirts or water jugs that are branded, and so you could have a shopping page as your page of your page of your choice. In the case of the communication arts department, maybe the page of your choice would be to highlight student graduates, maybe students who have graduated, what jobs they're in, what they're doing now, and maybe another page. Oh, you could also have a shopping page for that. We do have a little bit of merchandise. Or maybe you want a page to highlight the school newspaper or the school yearbook. So those would be your choices. And then your last page would be a privacy policy, which is legally required. A second deliverable is that somewhere in your website you need a contact page. It might be a standalone page, or it might be incorporated into another page. And third, you will have search engine optimization done. So this simply means that you have gone through the process of making sure that Google is going to be reading your website correctly and considers it to be a quality, relevant, and authoritative site that they can give to somebody who's doing a Google search. So those are the deliverables that you will have. I will ask you to make this choice during this Unit 1 that you need to decide which choice you want, your own client or the class client, because with making that choice, we are going to be jumping into planning right away, which means we're going to be, most of what we do from here on out is going to be thinking about who your client is and how do we start this design process, knowing who your client is and figuring out who the audience is that you need to appeal to and bring to your website. Good luck. I can't wait to find out what you've all decided to do.